I knew that it was my fate, my destiny to follow that music.
Phill Brown Presents is a special presentation to a film screening of the film A Perfect Song. Phill Brown is a record producer and recording engineer who has worked with some of the biggest artists in the music industry for over 55 years. His story was published into a book that has been given the highest praise from book reviews and music critics. Phill started his career at the legendary Olympic Studios in 1967, before becoming a house engineer for Island Studios Basing Street in 1970. The list of over 300 artists that he's worked with reads like a who's who of the music industry, including Jimi Hendrix, the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, Cat Stevens, Jeff Beck, David Bowie, Bob Marley, Roxy Music, Dire Straits, Talk Talk, Robert Plant, Robert Palmer, Traffic, Steve Winwood, Dave Gilmour, Joe Cocker, T-Rex, Paul Carrack, Harry Nilsson, Steve Miller, John Martin, Joni Mitchell, from the Troggs, Dusty Springfield, Marianne Faithfull, Lulu, and the Small Faces, from the 1990s Dido to Arthur Brown,
and I bring you fire,
including Rokia Traoré, who won World Music Album of the Year at the Victoire de la Musique, the French equivalent of the Grammys. Phill Brown is considered a legend in the music business. Perfect Song is a film that was written, produced and directed by Billy Yeager, who also acted in the main role, including playing every musical instrument for the film's soundtrack, which won him Best Acting Award and Best Soundtrack in 2003. Billy Yeager discovered his own actors, trained them himself, and completed the film with no money.
action!
There is no more revolution. Music used to stand for music. Rock and roll used to stand for something. It was fuck the establishment. But we sold out. We all sold out like whores.
You know, when I was 16 and started Olympic in '67, I did think that we could change the world with music, you know, and there was a bit of a revolution in the late '60s. But it might have taken 15, 20 years, but I think we did sell out as whores. It's definitely a deep kind of film. But then I think pretty much everything Billy does has got this kind of depth to it. Because I think he's on a mission.
Billy Yeager has written and recorded over 2,600 songs, discovered many times by some of the most powerful people in the music and film industry. Yeager walked away over 25 years ago. With his wife Anais, they retreated into the desert for over 5 years, where they produced and directed their film, Jesus of Malibu. In 1998, Billy threw most of his recordings away and has never released any of his films. Phill has been the only person that has seen A Perfect Song in over 20 years. He wanted to go on record stating that every musician in the world needs to see this film.
You're the only person who's seen this film in over 20 years. In a few words, what is the thing that strikes you the most about this film and that made you want to come here today to let everyone know that every musician in the world needs to see this film?
Yeah, I mean, it's just great casting, fantastic editing, the visuals are beautiful, the soundtrack, and he puts across some very valid points, you know, about the state of the world and how we've kind of almost art, music, film has all become, you know, it's not sacred anymore, it's not special anymore, it's all been rather devalued. But I think everyone does need to see the film. I thought music could change the world. You know, I thought through the 60s and 70s, I did think we could make a difference. And perhaps we have, but I mean, in the 80s, it all got hijacked and it all became about money, which was kind of sad. And I know that Billy just kind of walked away from it all maybe 25, 30 years ago, which when you've had that kind of critical success, you know, and people like Rod Stewart and various artists that just thought he was amazing, to walk away from that is, well, in my head is quite difficult, but obviously not for him. He didn't want to be famous. He wanted to change the world. Because of what's going on now in 2024, it definitely needs something to help save mankind, you know, because we're heading in a fairly dark way.
If you love art, if you're a real artist, and you dedicate yourself to that, you dedicate yourself to God and being great. What's wrong with setting the bar high? God's sake, I'm God's last chance, the last living prophet.
It just feels like he's got some connection where things just stream through him, whether it's lyrically or musically. He may be lucky and have this kind of link where things transmit through him.
Yeah, there's some music to go with it, and it makes the kind of, it's like a confection of profundity.
In a way, it's a pity he's a recluse in that sense, and his work doesn't get out there more. But he's a true artist. I'd like to see Billy, get the recognition and get his work out there. I think the world needs this right now.
A Perfect Song, like many other of Yeager's films, will never be sold for profit. This private invitation to this intimate gathering of like-minded professional musicians is to help raise awareness and to raise funds for the 2 million people around the world who still do not own their own wheelchair. These are the unfortunate civilians. They are landmine victims, and many are forgotten. Mind This Wish is a private invitation-only event. If you have received this private invitation, this means you were handpicked and specially selected by producer and engineer Phill Brown, or the artist known as Billy Yeager. To learn more about Phill Brown, Billy Yeager, and his film A Perfect Song, please see the long version of this story below. If you plan to go, please remember to RSVP.